What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined as always by my dad Sean, and today reactions to the classics. We got some more of Mr. David Bowie.
Yes, we do. It's been a while.
It has, and we're looking at his very acclaimed record, Station to Station, and this comes courtesy of a suggestion from our patron, longtime supporter, Mr. Tom Williams. Always appreciate the love here, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, thank you, brother. Always.
He recently went through Bowie's entire catalog.
Yeah, man, much props for that.
This was his favorite, so excited to dive in and discuss not only the backstory, but the 6 tracks that are on this record. And if this is your first time stopping by, we appreciate you. Here we upload every single day, album reviews, song reactions, top 10 lists, live streams. So that sounds like something interesting. Be sure to hit that big red subscribe button and give this video a like. That helps us out, and you can check out all our social media down below, as well as our podcast. And if you'd like to have us maybe do an album review for you, you can check out our Patreon page, which will also be linked down below. But all that to say, Dad, let's just get into the quick facts of this record.
Let's do it. 10th, lucky 10th studio album released in January of 1976. It was recorded between September and November of 1975 at Cherokee Studios in Los Angeles, which is going to become a story in a few minutes. It was number 324 on the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. Went to number 3 in the US and 5 in the UK. Yeah. The only time, or the last time, that a Bowie album would go higher in the US than in his homeland in the UK. It was co-produced by Harry Maslin, commonly regarded as one of his most significant works. It was the vehicle for his performance persona, the Thin White Duke. It was recorded after he completed shooting Nicolas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth. The cover artwork's actually a still from the film. Musically, Station to Station was a transitional album for Bowie, developing the funk and soul music of his previous release, Young Americans, while presenting a new direction influenced by German bands such as Kraftwerk. The lyrics reflected his preoccupations with Nietzsche, Aleister Crowley, which come into play in a little bit, mythology, and religion. Station to Station has been described as simultaneously one of Bowie's most accessible albums and most impenetrable. The musical styles explored on the album would culminate in some of Bowie's most acclaimed work, with the Berlin Trilogy, recorded with Brian Eno in 77 through 79. So we're going to get back to the Los Angeles. Bowie has referred to his time in Los Angeles as a time of hell. He just absolutely hated Los Angeles after this. I don't know if that waned when he got older, but reason why is he really got into cocaine during this time. I mean, I'm sure he's already into it, but at this point, he was in just a cocaine, almost manic, psychotic state. He only did cocaine, drank milk, and ate peppers. That's what he subsided on for 3 months.
Diet of champions, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he would stay up for days on end. And in that, he started having all these like hallucinations, as you would if you were in all those things. He would think that the Rolling Stones were trying to contact him. He had all kinds of like black candles burning at his house, all kinds of sort of dark magic. And he was very afraid that the witches and the wizards would come and steal his urine, which I've never had that fear. I don't know about you, but it's never occurred to me. But it stems back to, he got into it with Jimmy Page, the famous Led Zeppelin founder. And Page owned Aleister Crowley's house, who Bowie very much identified with as well. And he was afraid that Page would somehow put some sort of spell on him, channeled through Aleister Crowley.
Come after him,
He was a very big occultist. And yeah, they would come after him, and the wizards and witches would steal his urine. So that's more amazing to understand all that, to understand that this album was made.
Was still
during this time when he was going through all this
so
stuff.
good, and yeah, that's an interesting part too, because he notes that he doesn't really remember a lot of the sessions for this.
So he really don't remember anything.
And as do a lot of the studio musicians that are on this, are like, you know what? There was times where it's 8 a.m. You got to have energy to lay something down. Let's do a line. Let's get this done.
Earl Slick talked about that. He's like, what are you going to do, man? The guy's going all day and night, so you got to do what you got to do.
So definitely some wild circumstances.
Very much.
Under here. And you mentioned earlier the Thin White Duke. That's a character that Bowie started to put together from, at this time, we got to remember, he's doing his first major film, The Man Who Fell to Earth, and the director of that, Nicolas Roeg, warned Bowie that the star part of Thomas Jerome Newton would likely remain with him for some time after production completed, and Bowie kind of mentioned that it did. The blending of that persona with Bowie's real-life persona kind of went together.
Well, we know that David kind of obviously got into stuff between Ziggy and Aladdin Sane.
Yeah.
But yeah, he he just actually became this guy, sort of.
And noting the Thin White Duke, he's kind of very striking if you've ever seen it.
And you'll see him on all the B-roll I'm putting on here, because it's basically all of the Thin White Duke.
So, those kind of merge together, and of course, that's on the album cover of this, and some other albums and material that would come out from David in the next 12 months in this period. So always interesting that he just goes so full bore.
Deep, man. The recording process developed with this team set the pattern for Bowie's albums up to and including Scary Monsters and Super Creeps all the way up in 1980. Backing vocals laid down by George Murray, Dennis Davis, and Carlos Alomar. Saxophone, keyboard, and lead guitar overdubs here by Bowie, Roy Bittan, and Earl Slick. Bowie drew criticism during the tour for his alleged pro-fascist views. In a 1974 interview, he had declared, Adolf Hitler was one of the first rock stars, quite as good as Jagger. He staged a country, but he managed to avoid condemnation on this trade. That is an insane thing to say. But, David knew how to say stuff to get the press. So I don't know that he believed that or not, but I mean, we're still talking about it all these years later.
And he kind of noted too, like later on, that he doesn't really remember some of the tour and saying this, that I mean, kind of with the drugs and blending with the Thin White Duke, obviously he said some out-of-pocket things he shouldn't have.
He did, and one big thing that caused a lot of controversy. In April of '76, he was detained by customs in Eastern Europe for possession of Nazi memorabilia. The same month, he was quoted in Stockholm as saying that, quote, Britain could benefit from a fascist leader. Bowie would blame his addictions to persona, as you mentioned, Trey, the Thin White Duke, for his lapses in judgment. Controversy culminated in May of 1976. I'll put a picture right here for you so you can see this. Before the two were completed in the so-called Victoria Station incident in London, Bowie arrived in an open-top Mercedes convertible and apparently gave a Nazi salute to the crowd that was captured on film and published in NME. Bowie claimed the photographer simply caught him in mid-wave. You can make up your mind. He very well might have caught him in mid-wave, or David might have done it because he was just into the character, right? He was into this character. The character became him. So as we get into this, there's only 6 tracks. Mm-hmm. All of them are written by Bowie.
Except for the last one.
Except for the last one. The first track, Station to Station, is 10 minutes long, and as I like to say sometimes on this channel, it's a musical journey.
Oh yeah, it's actually the longest studio recording that David has.
Yes.
And wow, talk about a journey. With the vocals don't come in until a little after 3 minutes, and we have just some great panning in there. And what Earl Slick wanted to do with his guitar playing, it's kind of very heavy and has a bit of that where it's trying like a train coming through, and that kind of just comes through and gets you geared up and ready to jump into this record as a whole.
Yeah, it does. And it's really divided into 2 parts. The first half is a slow march, as you said, more than 3 minutes before the vocal. The second half takes a form more of a prog disco suite in a different key and tempo than the first. Lyrically, it introduces the Thin White Duke. The opening sound effects are red herring meant to represent the Stations of the Cross, along with a juncture connecting 2 different stages of his career. It combined the funk and soul of his previous albums, Young American, with the experimental sound he would explore on his Berlin trilogy. Bowie said the only thing he remembered at all about recording this song is he told Earl Slick he wanted him to do nice, something maybe like Chuck Berry, and then he's like, then I remember he did it. That was really all he remembered out of the entire recording of this song.
Yeah, and Slick just is great. They were able to bring forth those noises through some of those like delay effects and different unique things on the guitar, and it really adds. This is a very atmospheric record with how and especially this track I think heightens that, and I'm just really enjoy it. And then once that second part hits in, where you get a little more funkier, get ready to groove a little bit, it just shows what we already know. David is a chameleon that can do so many different types of styles.
Yeah, and it was very smart to put this track first so that you just like, look, here's what you're going to get on this album. Things have changed, and you need to know it right now.
Oh, absolutely. Some great lines in here that I think reflect David himself. Got to keep searching and searching, and oh, what will I be believing, and who will connect me with love? And the second half has that part where he says it's too late to be grateful, late again, hateful. All this time has passed, and we must live with it. I think, of course, too, one of the more famous parts of the songs where he notes it's not the side effects of the cocaine, it must be love.
Yeah.
It is kind of that almost sad assertion, like, you know that he is under the cocaine, that it probably is the cocaine.
Yeah, it probably is the cocaine.
Duke.
Yeah.
But he just delivers in a way where you really do hope he's able to find this connection, find this love. And this whole album is littered with lyrics that are a bit ambiguous at times.
Yeah.
And also reflect, I think, David's search for kind of meaning of life, spirituality, his place. And I think this is a wonderful way to start the record and put those themes forth.
Yeah, David actually said the Station to Station track itself is very much concerned with the Stations of the Cross, a series of 14 images depicting Christ's path to his crucifixion, each symbolizing a stopping point for prayer. And he said in 2001, as far as the music goes, Low and its siblings were a direct follow-on from the title track Station to Station. It's often struck me that there will usually be one track on any given album of mine which will be a fair indicator of the intent of the following album. And this is just a great track. I mean, if you haven't figured out that's what we think of it so far, I'm assuming you think it's a great track. The more you listen to it, the more you like it, the more it grows on you, all the different nuances.
Oh, definitely.
And it is interesting that he, put something in there about Christ, considering he was really into the occult and some different things at this time. But just a fantastic way to start it. That's going to take us to the second track, Golden Years.
Yeah, and this was actually a single, reached top 10 in the United States. And this does have a single vibe. You're not going to drop Station to Station, obviously, at the 10-minute long track.
No, you're not.
As a single, and it has a bit of that funkiness, kind of still harkens back to like that young American sound that he had. And really here he's talking about kind of some optimism, and yet he also has lines in there about we got to run for the shadows. So a bit of a cautious optimism right here, but I think this was good to have a more dance or funky type track coming in here after the heaviness that the title one.
Well, Trey, there's a little controversy on who the song was written for. Not that it really matters, but Angie Bowie said it was written for her, that he called her up and sang it to her. But the more predominant thought is that this was written for Elvis originally. David loved Elvis, and Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, thought that since Bowie and Elvis were on the same label, that of course Bowie should write something for Elvis, because Elvis didn't write his own songs. If you don't know that, he did not. So supposedly this was floated to Elvis, and Elvis never used it, so he did it himself. But David loved Elvis,
and Elvis actually wrote a note saying good luck on your upcoming tour, and David actually kept that and treasured it for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
so,
crazy the power Elvis had over people.
So what you think of this one?
I liked it. I didn't love it. I was not one of my favorites on the album. I mean, there's only 6 songs on the album, but that's a good segue, Trey, because the next song, Word on a Wing, is one of my favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, this one is more piano-led and driven, and again, talking about his search kind of for spirituality. In here, we really get into the God talk, and
it's over 6 minutes long too. Another long one, and it was written out of one of those coke-inspired spiritual despairs that he experienced while he was filming the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth that we talked about earlier. In 1980, Bowie spoke of this song to NME, claiming, quote, "There were days of such psychological terror when making the film that I nearly started to approach my reborn, born again thing. It was the first time I'd really seriously thought about Christ and God in any depth, and Word on a Wing was a protection. It did come as a complete revolt against elements that I found in the film. The passion in the song was genuine, something I needed to produce from within myself to safeguard myself against some of the situations I felt were happening on the film set." I don't know exactly what he means by that. I mean, I'm not sure, because I'm not familiar with the film and didn't do a deep dive on the film itself, but Bowie had some strong feelings on it.
Oh, definitely. And as a Christian, man, I appreciated this. I know, David wasn't a Christian, but
I'm saying with you,
he was definitely searching out here, and I think the lyrics here really reflect from his soul, his delivery. The arrangement here really kind of highlights his vocals, and he notes that how he doesn't know how he's going to fit into God's scheme of things. He also notes that just because he believes doesn't mean that he can't use his brain and think about heaven and hell. He's not just mindlessly taking everything. He's still thinking about stuff, and I think this just reflects the fact we all want our prayers to be heard and answered, and we're going to throw them out on that Word on a Wing here. And I just really thought that he nailed this quite well. I'm with you, Dad. This is one of my favorites, and I do just think it also reflects to David living in the world and how we all live in the world, yet we recognize there's a spiritual component to us.
Right, exactly.
And we need some help in that regard. So great way to end this A side.
Yeah, I would say already ends off the A side. We're going to start with the B side with TVC 15. It's over 5 minutes long. Second single, 33 in the UK, only 64 in the US. This one is a great story. It's inspired by an episode in which Iggy Pop, during a drug-fueled period at Bowie's LA home, hallucinated and believed the television set was swallowing his girlfriend. Bowie developed the story of a holographic television. In this song, the narrator's girlfriend crawls into the TV, and afterwards, the narrator desires to crawl in himself to find her. Great guitar, very catchy chorus on this.
Yeah, maybe the catchiest tune, I think.
I actually preferred it to Golden Years, but I'm surprised it didn't chart higher.
And I think here he does a good job balancing kind of the absurd, like, what? This girlfriend's going through the TV with a serious concept of we all, especially here in 2020, like to numb ourselves a little bit with the TV.
With the little TV.
And I like, too, he says in the chorus, TVC 1.5. He doesn't say 15.
No, it's 1.5, yeah.
TVC 1.5. So, and also of note, at the end, you hear that saxophone play, and who is it? It's Bowie himself.
Bowie started playing the saxophone when he was 12 years old. Learned that on my the podcast I did, 25 Things About David Bowie. Check that out in our podcast. But yeah,
great podcast.
Started playing the sax when he was 12. I think the story's just great, right? What did that look like at Dave's house in LA? I would guess Dave was high too, but he remembers this, so he couldn't have been so gone that he doesn't remember to write about it. But Iggy, just freaking out.
Iggy, an eccentric man in his own right. So
and they would later collaborate, in the 80s even on some stuff.
That's right. And going back to that saxophone note, you were noting that I think David sometimes isn't brought up as how great a musician he is.
Yeah, agreed.
Obviously, here saxophone. He also played some keys on this record, synthesizer, piano, and on top of his great singing voice.
Yeah, he could do a ton of stuff. He just chose not to, whereas other guys like McCartney and Prince did them all in their albums, but he went ahead and let session musicians do it. But David could have done it. It's a very good point if he would have wanted to. It takes us to the last track already, Stay. Right. It's over 6 minutes long. It was also released as a single, has a good funky guitar lick that dominates the track, which was invented by guitarist Earl Slick during the sessions for the album. Verse and chorus structures can be traced back to John, I'm Only Dancing Again, a track recorded for the Young Americans album, but first released as a single all the way in 79. Great guitar, just fantastic. As far as the song, to me, still pretty good, but it's the weakest one on here for me. It's still a good song.
Here I think we have Slick's best guitar
playing. The guitar. That's why I put a great guitar.
I think that's up there. And here, too, I think he's noting the kind of trouble of addiction. We have the line in here, maybe I'll take something to help me, hope someone takes after me. That's a little bit, I think, of a double entendre, like if I maybe take cocaine, we'll say in this instance, hope somebody takes some after me, but also like, if I take something, I hope somebody takes after me, like helps me out, because almost like a cry for help. So again, I think this track kind of notes the fact that David's relatable kind of in what he's saying, even though he's on a plane that few had been on up to this point, where you can't fully relate to him, but he's still giving you enough to kind of latch onto here. And then that takes us to something you might not expect, the final track, a cover.
A cover, Wild as the Wind, also over 6 minutes long. Kind of repetitive. I don't really need to say these songs are long. There's only 6 of them on here. This was first recorded for a film, Wild as the Wind, in 1957. It was recorded by the great Johnny Mathis. Actually got an Academy Award nomination for it. But the one that David was inspired by is Nina Simone, then did a cover of that. And after meeting her in LA in 75, he was inspired to record the song for this album. Bowie later said that Simone's version, quote, really affected me. I recorded it as an homage to Nina. It's the only cover Bowie did during this period of his career. He co-wrote or wrote all the other songs on his album. It's pretty good. It's stripped back, so it's a difference here. Really nice vocals, showcases the vocals.
Oh, definitely. There's dual guitars here, and then, as you mentioned, his vocals are up in front. A couple moments where the music just stops and he's going a cappella.
Yeah, I thought that was nice.
Just one of those things where you think you can just kind of listen to at 2 a.m. and just kind of get in your feelings, jam to. Very heartfelt lyrically. He notes, don't you know your life itself, like the leaf clings to the tree? Oh, my darling, cling to me. We may not know where the wild wind of life life's going to take us. But I think David's assertion here after everything is, man, it's better to go through this wild life with somebody rather than alone.
Alone, exactly. And that's going to segue us to our favorite songs. Not very hard to pick the favorite tracks on this one, Trey, because
it's only 6, man.
There's only 6. So for me, Station to Station.
One of mine.
And Word on a Wing.
One of mine, and I'll also throw in a TBC 15.
Yeah, you can talk me into that too.
As well. I also like Golden Years. I mean, I loved every single track on here, which now is going to segue us to overall score.
Yeah, and the overall score is tricky on an album that only has 6 songs. I think 4 of the songs are fantastic. I think 2 of the songs are good. So what do you really do with that? For me, I'm gonna, just because of the different shift that he's went to here and just the innovativeness of it, it stands the test of time, and the fact that he was doing enough cocaine to kill a basketball team, it sounds like. I'm gonna go an 8.5 on this.
Going in strong, man. Yeah, I'm gonna say I echo your thoughts, man. With 6 tracks, I do like. It was about 37 minutes, 38 minutes. It's but the tracks are pretty long, but they don't ever feel
I never feel like, is this ever going to end? No, I don't. They always just feel just right.
Are stretching out. Great use of blending genres with his more art style, the prog influences, of course, kind of that German, experimental, on top of just that disco and funkiness that he had on Golden Years and at that second half of Station to Station. I really, really love this record. It's my favorite Bowie record, actually. I like it more than Ziggy.
I don't, but I haven't listened to it as much as Ziggy.
And, I kind of, this one made me think of 2 other records that we reviewed on this channel that I really dug, that were kind of, concise. We had Born to Run by Springsteen.
Yeah, only 8 songs.
And then Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, which is 5. So, and both those I gave 9 5s. If you asked me today, I'd give both of those 10s. And, I'm not going to make the same mistake here today, people. For, I think, only the 5th time on the channel.
Oh, my goodness, I'm shocked.
We're going full 10 out of 10 on this record, man.
Wow.
I thought, what are the flaws of this album? And honestly, I couldn't come up with any. I really think that just his vocals, the lyrical content, the genre blending, and just the way the track listing was. I just dug everything about this record, man.
Awesome, man.
So shout out to Bowie.
And to Mr. Tom Williams, who's going to be very happy with this.
No, man. Yeah, I spun this, on repeat many times, and the more I spun it, the more I enjoyed it, and it solidified. I got to go with 10 because I don't want, with these video reviews, it's not like an article where I can edit.
Yeah, exactly. This is out here, man.
So I feel confident enough to give this the full 10 out of 10, man. But anyways, let us know what you think of Station to Station down in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. Again, shout out to our guy Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Shout out to you, Dad. I know this had a lot of research.
It did. It was fun. It's very interesting, this album.
And I'll be curious to kind of hit that Berlin trilogy now with Heroes and Low and whatnot. But anyways, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and until next time, we will see ya.